in WebAssign. Like, I started going in order from top to bottom, and then I went to the bottom, and there was like 1.11.
I did that. Because the way they have it in the book, it's not, you got to learn some things before you learn other things, but this book sucks. So that's why I put it in the order that you need to learn it. Okay, so I did that. The homework, not the book. But so just bear with me. I did it for a reason. All right, let me turn on the whiteboard and then we can start it. Did it record? Yes, did it record? And just like I've been doing, I will go over, and we should be finishing up this probably this week. Everything will be okay when you see the first test, okay? You just keep working on the homework. When you see the first test, you're going to be like, oh, okay, it'll be all right. Don't go hammy on me. Rewrite the pair of functions as one composite function. Rewrite the pair as one composite function.
When is the test going to be?
Okay. F of t is equal to 5e to the t, and t of p is equal to, they could screw up. I hate this book. I hate this book. God, I hate this book. Let's see, how should I attack this? Let me go to the whiteboard. Okay, I'm just going to go to the whiteboard because I don't want to. Let's go over composition right quick, because a lot of you, and I understood a lot of things with functions, but when it got to the composition, I always got confused. So let's go over it. F of x is equal to 2 or x squared. G of x is equal to 5x. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
Now, if I ask you to compose G of A, or F of G, I will write it like this. F composed of G, fog. And that means I'm going to rewrite F of x with a big set of parentheses wherever there's an x. So that means I'm going to rewrite F of x, and I'm going to put a big set of parentheses, and I'm going to put what? A square there. Everybody with me? Now I'm going to plug in what?
5x.
G of x. I'm going to plug in G of x into the big set of parentheses. So 5x. Now be careful here, because not only the 5 is squared, but what else? The x is squared, so your answer is 25 what? 25x squared. So F composed of G is 25x squared. You with me? All right, now you do G composed of F. So that means you're going to rewrite G with a big set of parentheses and plug in F. So G composed of F is equal to rewrite G of x with a big set of parentheses. So that's going to be 5 times a big set of parentheses with an arbitrary mark come out of nowhere. And plug in f of x. So f of x is x squared, and you get what? 5x squared. All right, now I want you to do f composed of f and g composed of g. And this is kind of a review drill I do for any of my algebras because a lot of people forget how to do it. And then on top of that, you got the stupid book that rewrites it a totally different way. So you put those two things together, and what do you have? You have Patrick Starfish in the orb of confusion. So do F composed of F. So I'm going to go to the next whiteboard. And what did I say? F of X is what? X squared. X squared, and G of X is 5X. With an arbitrary mark. And I'm going to do F composed of F. So I'm going to rewrite F with a big set of parentheses. And I'm going to plug in what?
Squared.
F of X. So what is power rule? X to the what?
Oh.
X to the fourth power. Now I'm going to do G. Dog. That's going to be a big set of parentheses with 5 parentheses. And then what am I going to plug into the parentheses?
5X.
You get 25X. And that's how you do that's how you do compositions.
I feel like a secret.
Now, let's go back to the text of confusion, and let's go and see if we can figure out how to do that one now.
Saw that in.
And don't feel pregnant, because there's a lot of times when you're in this book and in this homework, there's going to be a lot of times that you're going to read the directions, and you know how to do the math, but you don't know how to do it because of the way they word it. Now, I'm going to do this. F of X is equal to 5e to the x. And G of X is equal to 4x to the second power. Now, what does this mean? What does that mean right there? That means F composed of this, okay? So I want you to give me F composed of G. So go ahead and do that now. Forget this. Just do what I told you here and see what you get. So you're going to rewrite F with a big set of what?
Parentheses.
So 5e to the what?
Parentheses.
And then what are you going to plug in it?
4x.
It should be P. They're using the P. 5e. Oh, I'm sorry. I got the E wrong. Sorry. I got the E wrong. E's supposed to be down here. I'm sorry. Thought it was to the EX. 5 to the EX. There we go. My bad. All that alcohol I drank this weekend. And another arbitrary mark. We're going to get training on one of these things one day. Probably year 2050. That's when Tri-County, I target Tri-County will be up to times with, technology in 2050. And I'll be in here in a wheelchair, half dead. Okay? So, what am I going to plug in right here? 4x squared. So our final answer is 5e to the what?
X squared.
4x squared. And of course, the problem does not have x. It has what?
P.
P. So 5e to the 4p squared.
3.
Now, let me ask you a question. Was that hard?
No.
But was it hard the way they had it?
Yes.
Yes. So you can do the material. The book sucks. So I do what I can to try to fix it, but you can't fix stupid, and sometimes you can't fix something that sucks. You can't fix it. Okay? Now, what does this mean? Anytime, this means right here, you're taking this function and you're plugging in a what? So this is a calculator drill right here. This is calculator. So this is going to be, you don't have to do it yet, the calculator yet. 4, and then parentheses, 2 squared, and then that's going to be equals 5e to the 16th power. So you put that in the calculator and somebody check that to see if that's what you get. Because it's going to be a BA number, because what is e? It's 2, isn't it? 2 to the 16th power, that's a BA number, because 2 to the 5th power is 32. So 2 to the 16th is going to be a BA number. So somebody check it and just tell me if it gives you that number, yes or no. Should.
It does.
Say again?
It does.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to pick on you, Miss Novak. Novak? I want to say Novak, I'm sorry. Where are you at, Miss Novak?
Right here.
Okay, raise your hand so I can see you. Okay, let me ask you a question. What do you feel after the way I showed it to you? Did you know how to do it, you just didn't know what to do, right?
Yeah, it's easy. It's just the way it was worded.
Yep. Okay, now what you need to do here, all of you, you need to make a note that this book is going to screw this up. So this right here is really F composed of T. What? And they may ask tough. They may ask you to do T composed of what? What would T composed of F be? 4 parentheses squared, and then what goes in there? T composed of F would be what? 5e to the what? 5e to the T. And then use your power rule, but be careful here because not only is the e to the t raised to the second power, what else is? 25, right? 25 times 4 is what? 100 or 100, depending on where you're from. W or W. And e to the what? So TOF, or T composed of F, would be that. So make sure. And like I say, most of the time, I would say 50% of the time in this review section, y'all know how to do the math. You just don't know what they're asking for. So don't feel bad. You're probably still going to fail. So Miss Novak, you're still going to fail probably. Just go ahead and write it down. You're all going to fail. Everybody with me? And hopefully you feel good about yourself, so you don't have to carry around a milk jug full of water. Next one.
Yeah, I was like, there he is. Have the glass in.
Let's see what this one is. 1.11.
Oh, very good.
Estimate the input value of the inflection point. Okay, here I would probably use, this is a calculator drill, and I would use your calculator to find the max and the what?
Min.
Min. Okay? That's what I would do here. Okay, so handy dandy calculator. Get out your handy dandy calculator. Oh, well, you don't have, I'm sorry. You don't have the function. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Pull the question back up. I thought it had the function. Okay, you don't have the function. Okay, the inflection point is going to be right in here. Now, there's really no way to find it. Okay? And they don't give you any explanation, of course, on these questions because this book sucks. So the inflection point is going to be right in here. How do you know that? Well, you just learn. If I give you any type of problem, if I give you any parabola or any type of function, I can give you a function down here like this. Okay? the inflection point, here's the vertex here, and here's the vertex here. The inflection point is going to be halfway between the two what? Vertices, or between the two vertexes. And the best thing you can do is, and what does it say here? Estimate. And they're giving you pretty much a good, here's the vertex here, here's the vertex here. Well, I got it off a little bit, but right in here is going to be, and then you go down here and you say 3. I don't know if they give you a 0.5 tolerance in the answer. I don't know if anybody put in 3.5 or put in 3.2. Did it accept the answer? Did anybody try that? Okay. There may be a tolerance in here in the question. You might have put 3.2 and they might accept it because it does say what? It says estimate. Now, the bottom. Now remember your plane. Don't forget your plane. What the hell is he talking about? Don't forget the plane with the increasing and decreasing values. I showed y'all the plane, right?
Right.
Okay, so which way does the plane go? Left to right. What's this plane doing? Is this coming from negative infinity? What's it doing?
Decreasing.
It's decreasing. So it's decreasing from negative infinity to, what is that, 1? And then it's increasing from 1 to what? 6 maybe? I can't see because of the angle. Is it 6? Yeah, to 6. And then what is it doing now? It's decreasing from 6 to what? To 8, really, because you can't really speak because you don't know what this function is doing. So what you need to say, because I think the bottom is asking about increasing and decreasing. It's decreasing, we're going to say from 0. From 0 to 1, it's decreasing. It's decreasing from 0, and we're going to start at 0 to 1. And remember, Michael Jordan, when he goes up toward there's a point right here that he's neither going up or what? Down. He's actually flying. Okay? So that vertex, you neither go up or down, so you're not touching that point. You're flying for a millisecond. Okay, so this one is going to have a parenthesis on it because it's neither going up or what? Down. So that's going to get a parenthesis. It's increasing. Okay, that's pluses, okay? All right, it's increasing from what? 1 to what?
6.
6. Increasing from 1 to 6. And then decreasing from 6 to what? 8. I'm going to fill this in because it doesn't have an arrow there, and the book sucks. So I'm going to say to 8, and it stops. Okay, so they're going to give you, now right here, I don't know what this is. Okay, so as far as decreasing, you could say like 0.1 maybe, or 0.2, if they ask that. Let's see what the question asked down there before we go. This is the estimation problem. Is it a test question? If it's a test question, I try to pick one that's a little bit easier to read. Okay, if I do put this one. It's a good question. Okay, what does this say? Indicate the input intervals to which types of behavior, increasing, decreasing, concave up, or concave down. Okay, I just did that. I just did that right here. Okay, what is this one? Okay, let's go back to here. What is this one doing? And I'll do this one in red. Y'all have to remind me because I forget about concave up and concave down. I say open up and open down. What's it? Let's see it 5 or 6 times. What is this one right here?
Concave
I say
up.
open upward, but what is it?
Concave up.
Or is concave down?
Concave up.
Okay, thank you, Miss Shuttleworth. Where's your hat? You need to wear it every day now. You don't want your ears to get cold. All right, that one's concave up, if that's what you said. I'll say open up. And what is this one?
Concave down.
Concave down or open and downward. Refreshed? Everybody with me?
We're with you.
Okay. Like I said, a lot of times these questions, they suck, so we just have to bear with it. Now, when we get into Unit 2, we're going to go section by section, and you're not going to have to worry about reviewing, because this is all review. Okay? It should be from 109. Okay? Or 110. Next question. And I don't mind spending at least this week on it, because if you don't know this stuff, you're going to suck at the calculus. Find the domain of the function. All right? Remember, what can you not take the what? The log of?
Negative number.
I believe I did this one last week, or one like it. You can't take the log of a negative number. So just forget this, because you got to worry about this. X plus 5 is equal to what? 0. X is equal to negative 5. So if I plug in a negative 5 right here, I'm going to get what? 0. What if I plug in a negative 6? What am I going to get?
Not 0.
Negative 1. What if I plug in a negative 7?
Negative 2.
So anything I plug in below negative 5, it's not going to what? It's not going to work. So how do I write that? I can use all numbers from negative 5 to where?
Infinity.
And that, I don't know what the heck's wrong with this stupid. Let me check. Let me put that one right there. That's the other one. We all know what it is.
The Russians.
There you go. Something don't go your way, you blame it on somebody else or the Russians.
We can always blame it on society.
Negative 5. No, don't blame it on society, because society is racist. All right, so negative 5. Can we use negative 5? Can you take the log of 0? Yes, log of 0 is 1. So you can use negative 5, so there is your domain. Remember, when you want to find domain, usually with a radical or a log or a rational, you set the radicand or the denominator or whatever you're taking the log of, set it equal to what? 0. And if you don't have a clue, you do this. Use a what?
Number line.
Number line. And you say 0, negative 5, and positive 5. And I say, okay, 5. I got 5 right here, negative 5. So you can use negative 5. But what if you use negative 6? And that we just said negative 6 we can't use, because it'll give us a what? A negative number. But we can use negative 5. That'll give us a 0. So everything above 5 is our domain. That's a good test question. As far as a review, that's a good test question. And it's quick. So good job. Y'all sending a couple of test questions every now and then. That's a good thing. Next one. 1.3. Oh, I hate piecewise functions. I don't put them on the test very much. Okay, what is this thing saying? Refer to the figure below. Okay, assuming the function g continues, I guess this is g, the whole function is g. Same trend. Let's just forget about this, okay? Let's go to the graph and let's see what this thing's doing. All right? Which way do we read?
Left to right.
Left to right. So what is this function doing from, let's go over here, dang old plane, space shuttle. Okay? Let's take a look. And we read from left to right. So what is this function doing? At least until there.
Increasing.
It's increasing, right? Yes or no? It's increasing. And up here, what is it doing?
It's constant.
It ain't flying at all. It's just constant. And then it's what?
Increasing.
So let's just make a little note here. Put pluses here. And this looks like an open circle, but this cancels this out because This whole thing is a function of g, it said, right? So that means that I can use, what is this, 2? I can use 2, but where? I use it where? Right there, because that's a closed circle. You see what I'm saying? So kind of that closed circle cancels this out. So what's it doing from 2 to 4? It's what? Constant. And there's an arbitrary mark. Things I do for y'all. Constant, 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 constant. And then from 4 to infinity, it's what? So with this function, from -8, or from negative infinity, because I don't see an arrow, and we can't tell what this is, so I'm going to assume this is an arrow. All right? So from negative infinity to 2, it's what? And that gets a parenthesis right here. It's what? Increasing. And then from 2 to 4, it's what?
Same.
Constant. And then from 4, well, that would get a parenthesis because it's neither constant or increasing. So that would be 4 to infinity. What is it doing? It's increasing. Now, if they ask for the domain, now there's nothing here that says, there's no closed circle or open circle, so what am I going to assume that that is? I'm going to assume that it's a arrow, or an arrow, depending on where you're from. That's why this book, it sucks, because it needs to say, okay, it needs to say right here, if no arrows, if you don't have an arrow, then that means, if there's no arrow, that means infinity. They should give some kind of, but they don't. They don't give anything. So I'm going with the assumption that since they don't have a circle or a closed circle, I'm going to treat it as a arrow. Now y'all have to, okay, you as a student need to discern, since this book sucks, you need to discern whether, when you type in these answers, if it says it's wrong, then you need to go to a bracket and see if they want to stop. Now, some of y'all may have figured it out. I don't know, but we'll just play by ear. So, since this is an arrow, I'm going to say infinity right there. Now, what about domain of this function? The domain of this function is all real numbers. Somebody tell me why. All real numbers. Why is the domain all real numbers? Well, I'm assuming, what am I assuming again? I'm assuming that this is an arrowhead and this is a what? Arrowhead. I'm assuming that. So that means, what's this arrowhead called?
That's
Negative infinity to what? Okay. What about the closed circle and open circle? What do they do to each other?
Kind of
Cancel
like
each other out.
balance each other out.
The closed circle cancels the open circle. So can I use 2 in this function? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, because the closed circle overrides the what? The open circle.
Okay.
Now I can't use 2 in that bottom part, but I can use 2 in the upper part. Okay? Now, what is affected here? What has the gap in it? The domain or the range? All of you should be saying range.
The range.
Because this area, and I'm going to put it in red highlight, I don't use that very much. This area right here is the gap in the range. And range is the only one that we do in terms of what? Not X, but Y. So the range is going to be from -4, because it never touches -4, to what? 0? Do I touch 0? No, because you have a what circle on 0? Y'all supposed to be interacting with me. Y'all know that? What do you have on the x-axis? What do you have there?
An open circle.
That's why you get a parenthesis on 0. And then from 0, this is a union. It's not an intersection because there's no overlap. And then from 8 to what? This is so that means this is a what?
Infinity.
That's not a bracket, that's parenthesis. Your range is -4 to infinity, from -4 to 0, and then we have a gap from 0 to 8, so we don't put that in the range. And then from 8 to what? Infinity. So I think that's what the question is going to ask. It's going to ask one of those several things, but that's what I want you to be able to ascertain from that problem. I don't know what they're going to ask, but let's see what they ask. Who has sent this one? Scott. Where's Scott? Last name Scott.
Right here.
Okay. Is that what they're... Raise your hand. I got to see you. Okay, Pendleton campus. All right. Is that what they ask?
It's filming.
Okay. Limit as x approaches 8. Okay. As x approaches 8. What? Oh, that's wrong. It doesn't approach 12. That's not right. As x approaches 8, where is 8? Oh, I'm sorry, here. X approaches 8. I'm sorry. I was reading this. Okay, usually from a calculus standpoint, x approaches 2. Okay, but they're asking out here in left field. As x approaches 8, all you got to do is draw a straight line. This is your algebra, okay? So we'll do this in a light color. Okay, as x approaches 8, right here, what does y approach? It's just like a coordinate. All right? As x approaches 8, y is approaching 12. I know what they're doing here, but I'm not ready for y'all to do this. This is what I'm going to get into in Unit 2. All right? They're trying to teach you limits, okay? And I appreciate that, but I'm not ready for you to do that. We'll get into this in chat, but go ahead and do it. That's basically what it means. 8 is what? 12. All right? What about as x approaches positive infinity? Well, what did I say? As x approaches positive infinity, it has an arrowhead up here. As this goes on and on and on, this goes what? Up, up, and up, and this is what? Positive what?
Infinity.
Infinity, and that's what should be the answer. Here's our infinity right there. The range approaches infinity. So they're asking you to look at two distinct points, and we just did that. Okay, so hopefully that'll answer your question. This is just asking basically for the point where x is equal to 8, what is y? And this one, okay, it looks like, did you get this one right? Miss Scott? Is it Miss Scott? Because you got a 16, I'll make sure.
No. Well,
Okay.
I got the second answer right, but I didn't get the first answer right. Like, I didn't understand why it was 12.
Basically, they want to know the y. Okay? If you plug in x, what is y? All right? Now, the wording is limit, but I'm not, what they're saying is, it's called the Squeeze Theorem in calculus. If I approach 8 from this, okay, now it's not going to work. As I approach, okay, did I hit red? I thought I hit red. As I approach 8 and not touch 8 from the left, what am I doing on the y? I'm approaching what?
12.
I'm approaching 12. See? I'm approaching, as x goes to the 8, what is y going to? And if I approach from the right, if I come from 9 and go backwards, okay, basically, if I'm approaching 9, like, I mean, if I'm coming from 9 and going back to 8, and I'm approaching this way and that way, what am I approaching on the y-axis? It's called the Squeeze Theorem. If I approach from the left, then I'm going, if I approach from the left, then I'm approaching y is equal to 12. If I approach from the left, or the right, what am I approaching? Y is equal to 12. Basically, you're going to end up, if you plug in 8 into the function, what are you going to get? 12. But they're going from it from an approaching standpoint, and when I get to calculus in Unit 2, I'll go over all of that, okay? So hopefully that'll help you, Miss Scott. It's not that big of
Yeah,
an
it
issue.
makes sense.
Huh?
It makes sense.
Okay. It's not a good test question. I don't like piecewise functions because they tend to confuse a lot of students, and it's not detrimental to you understanding calculus of piecewise function. It is when you actually get into the calculus, but I go over it, so I really don't go over it before the fact. Okay, next. Ms. Shuttleworth, 1.3, graphically estimate the values indicated. All right, same thing, the squeeze theorem. All right, I'm going to use red and blue. I don't like to use red, but I'll use red here. This function, when you see this function right here, that negative means that I'm approaching 1, x is equal to 1, from the what? From the left. This one says I'm approaching x equal to 1 from the what? From the right. So we'll say left is red and right is blue. Is everybody with me? That's a plus. So let's draw a red line from the left. As I approach 1 from the left, what am I approaching right here? What am I approaching on the y-axis? 2.5.
2.5.
All right. Now what if I approach from the right? If I approach 1 from the right, what am I approaching on the y-axis?
2.5.
2.5. So your answer is 2.5. Now a lot of you say, well, that's simple. Well, what they're trying to get you to learn, and they say that's why I wait until, is basically, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to fall for it. I'm not going to get into that yet because that'll just confuse you, and we're not going to do that. So just treat it like a coordinate for right now. Trust me. So when I plug in 1, what am I going to get? I'm going to get close to what? 2.5. Am I going to touch 2.5? Yes or no?
No.
No. Why? Because it's an open what?
Open circle.
It's an open circle. So I never touch 2.5. I just what? Approach it. It's kind of like if you take half of a step. Each step you take toward that wall, you take half the previous step. Will you ever touch the wall? No. Mathematically, you will never touch that wall because you take half of half. You never get to 0. You approach it. We'll get into that with calculus. That's all I'm going to give you right now. All right, what does the next question say? Does it have another question? As t equal to 1, okay, when you approach t, 2.5 is the same thing. What about when m is 1? Well, m must be this one. When m is 1, what?
The same thing.
No, this is t.
It's that dot above.
When you plug in t is equal to 1, what do you get? Well, you could say, you can't say 2.5. Why?
Thought you could.
Because it's open what?
Circle.
So you have to go with whatever and this solid dot, it could be a solid dot, or it could be a part of another line that could be going like this. Okay, it could be another line. But the whole point is you can't use this one because what? You are approaching 1, but do you ever touch 1? No. So you have to bounce to whatever is there there could be another line up here. There could be a line right here that has a solid dot right there. and you would say, okay, at 1 you could hit 2, or you could hit 3, but you can't hit what? 1.5. Does everybody understand that? There's a difference between a limit and you actually plugging in. A limit means you are approaching it. We'll get into it with calculus. Just write down what I said and get through this homework right here, and we'll get to it in calculus. I hate to keep saying that, but I just don't want you to think I'm not going to cover it. I am going to cover it when the time comes. Next one. All right, this one says, okay, this one, what is this one? This is completing the square, and this is a number 1 test question. So you need to write it down. Let's do it. 3x squared minus 7x plus 15. I'll turn to the whiteboard. 3x squared minus 7x plus 15. 3x squared minus 7x plus 15. 3x squared minus 7x plus 15 is equal to 0. First thing, 3x squared minus 7x plus blank is equal to negative 15 plus blank. All right, go ahead and start. You need to factor out the 3 first. On a scale from 1 to 10 difficulty, this is about a 6 or a 7 as far as completing the square. So some of you might not be able to do it. If you don't, just consider yourself a what? Failure or a loser or a disappointment. Okay? So factor out the 3 and we get x. Oops, sorry. X squared, that was a joke for you that don't have a sense of humor. 7 over 3x plus blank is equal to negative 15 plus 3 times what? Blank. Whatever you factor out, you have to multiply by the right side blank. If you had a good algebra teacher, they told you that. So whatever you factor out, I hate to use red, but I didn't. I thought I used color. Okay? Now we're ready to do what? Complete the what? Okay, do it. B divided by 2 and square it. Yeah, you're going to have to do it by fractions. You do not use a calculator on completing the square. That's just more dependency. And then you won't be able to make change at the cash register. And then people will think you're an idiot. Well, math teacher will think you're an idiot. You can't spell mom backwards. 7 divided by 3 divided by 2 over 1. Do we divide by fraction or do we multiply by the reciprocal? Multiply by the reciprocal. 7 divided by 3 multiplied by 1 over 2 squared is equal to 7 over 6. And somebody square that for me. 49 over 36. Now, if you can't do that simple math and you're in a calculus class, yeah, we got a problem. 49 over 36. 49 over 36. Now we're well on our way because this is shortcut number 2. Those shortcuts I told you that you will not get rid of. They will follow you like a plague. Shortcut number 2. What? You're not going to share with me? Okay, that's fine. X minus 7, 6, quantity squared is equal to negative, well, let's go ahead and simplify this. What does that 3 do to that 36?
Turns it into 12.
12. Somebody multiply 12 times 15 for me.
That's 180.
Thank you. So that's going to be negative 180 over 12 plus 49 over 12. And that's going to give us 3 times x minus 7 6 quantity squared. What do you get? Somebody subtract negative 180 plus 49.
I think
Negative
it's
180 plus.
131.
I'm sorry, what?
131.
Thank you. And now you have the vertex. What's the y-intercept? Let's go ahead and find the y-intercept. If you can't find the y-intercept, don't what? Don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody.
There is the y-intercept. What is the vertex? We'll write it in blue up here. The vertex, somebody give it to me.
Negative 131.
I
7
heard
over 6. No, 7 over
7,
6.
6. Take the opposite of both.
Negative 131 over 12.
Take the opposite of both. 131 over 12. Or, if you want to put it in, and we'll do this in red. No, I don't want to do it in red. Let's do it in magenta. If it asks you for the intercept form or the standard form, you have to write it like this. Really? Sorry. F of x is equal to 3 times x minus 7 6 squared plus 131 over 12. And write this and highlight it or put it in a cloud and just put standard form because they may ask you for that. And here, you take the opposite of this to find your vertex and you just bring down this. Will you get the same vertex? Yes, either way, you just got to remember which one. So what's the opposite of negative 7 6?
7 6.
And what, if you just bring this down, what do you get? So you get the same vertex, it's just two different ways to do it. I don't do this very much because to me that's just holding your pinky up. I tell students here to take the opposite here and take the opposite here, and therefore they have their vertex. All right, so let's finish solving it. Let's go from here. I'm going to put it back in black. Dang away, CDC. All right, I'm going to go from here to here now because this was just stuff right here.
I have a question.
I'm going to say again.
Hubert, can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, I have a feeling I know what it is. Go ahead.
In magenta, did you say that was standard form?
Yeah, standard form or intercept form.
Okay.
Standard form or intercept form. Now the book and the test and the homework may ask for that. I don't, but the book or the test questions may ask for it in some questions. Because it takes an act of Congress to actually write a question, and sometimes I just don't want to do that. Okay? All right. So I'm going to divide by 3 over 1 here. It takes that out. And divide by 3, I don't divide by a fraction. I multiply by the what?
Reciprocal.
Reciprocal. And that's going to give me x minus 7 6 quantity squared is equal to negative 131 over 36. Now somebody tell me what you can ascertain at this point about your x-intercepts. My students do not answer because you know it. I know you know it. What can you ascertain about the x-intercepts here with that negative in front of 131? Y'all suck. Y'all know that?
There's none. There's not an
Thank
X.
you. Thank you. I hope that was one of my students, but if not, keep them out. All right, so I cannot take the square root of a negative. So therefore, at this point, we know no x-intercepts. But will the powers to be want a answer in form of I? Yes. So we've got to do that. So let's take the square root of both sides. That's going to give us x minus 7 over 6 is equal to, and I'm going to do negative 1, square root of negative 1, square root of 131 over 6. And I'm going to go over here and do the square root of 131. Now, they will not want you to do that, but I'm going to do it because I think it's important. So 144 is what? 12? 121 is what? 11? So 11.5 is in the middle. So I just got to find the middle over here. 121 to 144 is what, 23? Right? What's
Right.
half of 23? Half of 22 is 11. So 11 added onto this is 132. So I'm going to say it's 11.4. Somebody take the square root of 131 and tell me if it's 11.4 or not.
It is.
Of course it is. 7/6 is equal to, I'm going to go ahead and add the I, and I'm going to put 11, positive or negative, 11.4 over 6. And then I'm going to bring this over, and X is equal to positive or negative 11.4I plus 7 over 6. Now, you can write that as a square root. That's approximate. Make sure you know the difference. Approximate means calculator. Write that down. Approximate means calculator. What will it say if they want radicals? They won't say approximate, they'll say what? Exact. I was a member of the 4-H. Back before there was FFA, there was 4-H. I was a member of 4-H.
4-Hers and FFA kids don't
I
get
know.
along anymore.
Huh?
4-Hers and FFA kids don't get along anymore.
They don't?
No.
Huh. Oh, well. I grew up on a dairy farm right here, and you had to be a part of that 4-H. If you were in the dairy business and you had to show cows, and I showed cows, and Dad, you have to decorate your cows.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and you had to wash them every single day, and you had to put shoe polish on their hooves. Oh my gosh! But you learned a lot. And I went to 4-H camp. I tore that place up down there in Aiden. All right, so anyway, I'll shut up. Positive or negative, and you don't have to use square root of 131. Square root of 131, put an I in front of it with a positive or negative over 6. That is a part of the question. You could say that either one of those answers is correct. Can you separate it? Yes, it would be positive square root of 131 I over 6, comma, negative I square root of 131 over 6. You can break it up into 2. So now I want you to sketch it. So let's sketch this one. So right now I'm going to take my handy dandy cursor, and I'll see if it works. Dadgummit. Nope. Go ahead and be sketching this graph. I'm going to get training one day. Tri-County's going to give us training on these boards, on these projections. Probably 2050. When Tri-County's going to start recording their classes.
Let's think together.
All right, what's our y-intercept? 15. 5, 10, 15. There's our y-intercept. What's our vertex? 7 over 6 is 1 1/6, which is 1.16 or something like that, 1.2. So
Yeah.
1.2 would be right here. And then 131 over 12. 131 over 12. Somebody give me that decimal. What is that?
10.91.
Say again.
10.91.
Okay, 10.91 would be low right here. 10.91 would be right in there. We know it doesn't have x-intercept, so that means it has to go upward. And that's what it looks like. So let's do our increasing and decreasing values. We know it's all real numbers. Domain is all real numbers because it's a square function, and that's not a radical or a rational or a log. So our domain is all real numbers. Our range is from 131/12 to infinity. So our range is negative or 131 over 12 to infinity. And then our plane from the left is decreasing to 7/6. So decreasing from negative infinity to 7/6. And since it doesn't decrease or increase at the vertex, we put a parenthesis. And then increasing from 7/6 to what? Infinity. Line of symmetry always goes to the vertex. You might ask you that. Line of symmetry is always your x of your vertex, 7/6. And that's all the possible things I can ask you of that question. That's why it's a test question. Because if you can, anytime you're given one of these, I tell you to ignore the directions and do all of this in your notebook. Therefore, when you do have a question, you know how to do it. People that do not have LAD, they do that and they do very well. What's LAD?
Lad.
Did somebody say lad? LAD is lazy disorder. You fill out the A, all right? Lad. That's good. That's real rich. Lad.
Let's see. Mob.
Oh, that's the same question. We already went over that one. Hopefully you can answer it now. For the function, describe the end behavior. Okay, end behavior. What is end behavior? Well, that's your family of graphs. All right? So I want you to just graph 1 over e to the x. Somebody graph that. So let's add that to our family of graphs. If you were in my 109 class, I told you to take a landscape piece of paper and divide it into 8 or 10 groups, and we put x to the first was a straight line. We did a parabola. We did the S-curve. We did a quartic, which is a fourth or a sixth, a square root, absolute value. We did a half a volcano. We did a full volcano. And you can add these. I don't know what else we did. But this would be 1, or just a number, 1 over e to the x. So I want you to graph that function. We'll pull up the calculator and graph it, so you can see what all of those are going to look like. So let's pull up our handy-dandy calculator. And y is equal to 1 divided by parentheses e. The reason I had to put parentheses is a lot of people believe that calculators walk on water, okay? Especially the calculator drill team in high school. Y'all believe that? And they don't, okay? They do not have a brain. They are only as good as what? The operator. So you have to tell it that the e is divided into the 1. So that's why you have to put the parentheses around the e. Graph. Oh, thank God. Okay, I was hoping it would, All right, what is this function doing? It is coming from the left. It's crossing, well, what would it, let's see, if I wanted y-intercept, that means I got to plug in 0 for x. 0 log of 0, or e to the 0, would be 1. So it crosses at 1. Okay? And it's converging onto the x-axis. So let's draw that, because that's what the question's asking. It's not asking you to do anything real bad. Just go ahead and graph that function. Well, let's go to the, hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull this up. There it is. Give me a second. There we go. All right, so get rid of this. Yes. We know this function looks something like this. right? And I blew it up a little bit, and this is 1. I think that's 1. And it's converging, meaning that it's never going to touch the x-axis, but it gets what? Closer and closer. This, you have to set this equal to wherever x is equal to 0, and I'm not going to do that right now, but it's converging onto that right there, whatever that is. It's not going to pass it because you can't take the log of a negative number. Same thing with e. So we're not going to, same thing with expression. This is what it looks like. All right? And what is this function doing? This function predominantly is doing what?
Decreasing.
There you go. Okay? Is it decreasing during the whole thing? Yes. And it's approaching what? 0 right here. Okay? It's approaching 0 here, or x is equal to, or y is equal to 0, which is the x-axis. And it's approaching x is equal to a number here, which you would have to set this equal to 0, which would be 0.5 e to the negative 0.8t is equal to 1, negative 1, and divide by 0.5, and e to the negative 0.8t, which you don't know how to do this yet. What's 1 divided by 0.5? Somebody give me that. What is that? 10?
2.
What is 1 divided by 0.5?
2.
I'm at what?
2.
2. I'm sorry. Okay. So now you take the natural log of both sides, and that's going to be log of base e of e to the 0.8t is equal to the natural log of negative 2, and that's going to give you 0.8t is equal. Somebody give me the negative natural log. That's not going to work. Somebody take the natural log of negative 2. You may be able to take the natural log. What is it?
I thought you couldn't use it.
What does it do? What does the calculator give you when you take the natural log of negative 2?
Error.
It says error.
I've got an error in there somewhere. It's supposed to be a positive 2, and then you divide by 0.8. But that we haven't done. We're not doing that yet. They shouldn't be asking you that. As t increases without bound, the output values of s approach the limiting values of 53. Yeah, because this goes to what? What does this go to? This goes to this gets smaller and smaller. So what's 53 over 2? What's 53 over 1? What's 53 over 1/2? In other words, it gets closer to 53 as you go. Okay? So that's what that one's doing. So that one, when you do this question on the homework, this one is going to always be 0, because this function, no matter where you do it, it's always going to be approaching what? 0, because of the family of graphs of 1 over e to the what? E to the x. This is, so 1 over e to the x. On that family of graphs, you would put 1 over e to the x, like that. And it's approaching 0, and it's always going to be approaching, in this case, if I had a 1 here, and I didn't punch this in, I punched 1, it's going to be a negative 1 right here. It's going to be approaching negative 1 right there, if that was a 1. So it's always approaching the numerator. Okay? Right? The limitations, as x approaches negative infinity, okay? Yeah. As you approach infinity, this goes to 0, and then 53, that goes to, everything revolves around 0. Just everything revolves around 0 and the what? The numerator. 0 and the numerator. Question. That one is a very complicated question, and I understand why you sent it. I want to go over that one again. Not right now, though. I want to go over that one a little bit later, because I want to try to get as many questions. We'll come back to that one. But see, what are all the answers in response to? 0 and 53. You can't do anything with this function except for 0 or 53. All right? If you actually graph this function, you'll see what I'm talking about. Graph it on the calculator, but make sure you put what in parentheses? Either the numerator or the what? The denominator. I would put the denominator equal to, in the parentheses. So it'd be 53 divided by parentheses 1 plus 0.5 e to the negative 0.8t, close parentheses, and then you'll see where the 53 comes into effect. Okay, so this is a calculator drill. Make sure you can calculate it. Put it on the calculator. All it is graphing, because we haven't done this yet. Okay, as far as the natural log of e to the 8t, you do that in differential equations a lot. Okay, next. I'm trying to hurry and cover as many as I can, because we only got 10 minutes left. Some of y'all are going to start doing convulsions on the floor. Okay, 1.1, calculate the output, correspond to the function. Okay, I'm going to ignore this. This right here is a what? It's a quadratic. So I'm going to just do a little bit of complete the square on it. Because any quadratic, that's what I'm going to do in my notes, because I want to make sure I know how to do it. So negative 9x squared plus 4x plus blank is equal to 0 plus blank. Well, we got to factor out a 9, right? So factor out that negative 9, x squared minus 4/9 x plus blank is equal to 0 plus negative 9 times what? Blank. Take 4/9, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to take 4/9. And I'm going to divide by 2 and square it. I'm going to multiply by 1/2, square it. So 4 over what? 18? Wait a minute, this will cancel. 2 over 9. Somebody check me. 2 over 9 will be what? 4 over what? 81, Hubert. That's right, class. Aren't y'all glad y'all did this in 109?
Yes.
Yes.
Got 2 yeses out of 25 people. All right, negative 9. Because there's about 4 or 5 of y'all going, what the hell is he doing? Okay, well, that's you didn't get your money's worth in 109 or 110. X. Shortcut number 2, that'll be 2 over 9, quantity squared, is equal to, and of course you put this right here, that 9 will take that 81 to a 9, that's negative 4/9. Now I have a vertex. My y-intercept is what? 0, because I don't have a c, so my y-intercept is 0. And my vertex is what? 2/9 and what?
4/9.
4/9. That's your vertex. And now I'm going to divide by negative 9. Hey, look what happens here. That negative 9 turns this into a what?
Hold on.
A positive what? Number, which means I have x-intercepts. What does that give us? 4 over what? 81?
Yep.
Hot dog, that's a perfect square. We feel good about ourselves. X minus 2/9 is equal to positive or negative 2 over 9. X is equal to positive or negative 2 plus 2 over 9. What's negative 2 plus 2?
0.
So one x-intercept is 0. What is positive 2 plus 2 over 9?
4/9.
4/9, which is pretty much our vertex. So let's draw this thing. Now you'll be able to see what they're asking, or you might not. You may have to plug and chug. But the main thing is you know how to do complete the square. So my vertex, here's my y-intercept, 0. my x-intercept is 0 and 4/9. 4/9 is what, a half? Let's say that's 1. A half would be right here. Okay, and 2/9 is what? 2/8 would be what? 1/4, so that's 0.25. It's going to be 0.25, and 4/9 is 0.5, so 0.25 is going to be right here, and 0.5 would be up in here. So we got a parabola that's doing what? Opening which way?
Downwards.
How do you know that? That negative in front of the 9 tells you it's opening downward. Why is it skinny? Because of the 9. If it was a 1/9, it'd be wide like a dadgum satellite dish. Okay? So there it is. Now you know what it looks like. So I'm gonna erase some of this now. Well, no, I got my vertex written down. I'm gonna leave that. But let's see what happens when we draw it out. Because I don't like to just look at a question and go, I'm going to get exactly what the question needs. I like for students to learn about what they're doing. Like I say, it's not about regurgitation. That's the people that end up being glorified secretaries. Okay? The people that actually work are the ones that think. All right. So I'm going to just draw this a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to put it, that's 0.5. Let's say this is 1, and this is 1. So 0.5 would be right in here, and 0.25 would be right in there, 0, and what was the other one, 4/9? All right, so what do they ask? Okay, they're asking something very simple, so we really didn't need to do all this, but you got extra practice. What are you going to do when you have this right here?
Plug and
Means you're
chug.
going to plug and what?
Chug.
Plug and chug. Now t is equal to -14. That's way the heck over here. So it's going to be a BA small number because it's going to be way the heck down there. So it's going to be a negative number and it's going to be very, very big. So -9 parentheses -14 quantity squared plus 4 times parentheses and -14. Somebody be cranking that out. And 3, -9 parentheses 3 squared plus 4 times 3. Okay, that's going to be -9 times 196 plus, it'll be minus 4 times 14 is going to be what? 56? Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but 9 times 200, that's -1800, -1856 approximate. 1856, just doing it in my brain and rounding numbers. Basically, it's way the heck where? Down there in Hades, okay? It's way down there because it's negative. Somebody give me the actual number because that's an approximate.
1820.
1820, okay. So that's the answer there. Okay, there it is. I'm sorry. I didn't even realize that was there. And then 3 times 3 is what? 9 times -9 is -81. And then that's supposed to be plus 12. -80 plus 12 is 68, so it's going to be right in 60, what, 7, -67, -69, what is it? -69. Okay? Yes, no, maybe. Y'all going to say something, or y'all just going to tit on a bull? Y'all just going to sit there?
When's the test?
I don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to look at, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at the grade book tonight. And if half the class is over a certain amount, then I'll tell y'all Thursday when we're going to have a test. Okay? I got to see where everybody is. So, and I'm not going to go by a quarter because there's going to be 10% of y'all to 20% of y'all that ain't done squat. Okay? So I'm not going to go with 20%. I'm going to go with 50 to 60% because there's the LAD factor may play into that. So I'm not going to go with the LADers. The LADers can just sink. I don't really care about them. So I'll give y'all more. Keep working on the test. Send questions, because I have a feeling we're getting pretty close. By what I can see on the questions y'all are sending, it looks like we're getting pretty close. Okay. All right. Y'all have a good day. See y'all.